Welcome back. In part 3, we will be going over culture shock, LGBTIQ community questions, tips for single travellers, and being an ambassador for SCU. One thing you can count on your international study experience is it's going to be very different from home, and it can be a big adjustment. You might be overwhelmed when you arrive, so look out for culture shock. Even if you have travelled or lived overseas before, cultural adjustments is an inevitable part of your experience. It may disguise itself as frustration or annoyance, and it can happen the day you arrive or 3 weeks into your program, but it can be harnessed into a positive opportunity to grow and learn from the local culture. Before you go, research aspects of your host country, such as climate, public transportation, accommodation types, and the cost of living, so when you arrive overseas, you'll know what to expect. Here are a few tips to help you combat culture shock if it creeps up on you. Be present at orientation at your host university and ask lots of questions. Get a mate, make friends with a local, as they can be your cultural tour guide. It's okay to have Aussie friends overseas, as you're all going through similar experiences. Be a tourist. When you're feeling down, make a point of leaving the house and discovering something new. Learn the transport system and how to get around. Do something familiar. Comforts from home from time to time can make you feel better. Journal or blog. If you're feeling really down, try writing your feelings down in a journal before blogging and potentially offending your new local pals. Contact SCU International, as many of us have lived, studied and travelled overseas before, and we have experience with getting through the culture shock blues. Communication is key, so stay in touch. Skype, journal or blog, and email. Monitor your SCU email address very regularly.
It's important to stay in touch with friends, family and SCU. I admit I got homesick, and Skype and social media helped me stay connected.
Also, do you speak the language of your host university, or do you need to take a language course to attend? Some universities have language units that are compulsory and must be completed before your time abroad.
The international study experience really teaches you to become organised, so don't leave everything till the last minute. Save yourself the stress.
If you are a part of the LGBTIQ community, have you researched where you're going? Australian lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex and queer students preparing to go on exchange should be aware that social attitudes towards the LGBTIQ community around the world can be very different from those in Australia. It is highly advised that you prepare well and read up about your destination before you go, particularly if you are planning on exchange to a more socially conservative country. With careful planning and research, it is possible for LGBTIQ students to have a very successful and rewarding study abroad experience. When deciding on which program might be best for you, talk to one of the SCU advisors about potential host countries and universities. Laws and attitudes towards the LGBTIQ community can create potential risks for exchange or study abroad. You might also find other sources of information to be useful, such as online resource guidebooks, government resources, and local and international LGBTIQ organisations. These can all help with easing the culture shock in your host country. Some questions you might consider. What are the laws like regarding LGBTIQ in my host country? What are the cultural attitudes towards LGBTIQ? And how open can I be about my sexuality, gender and identity with my teachers, friends and others? What resources are available at my host university? Do they have an LGBTIQ support program for students? And are there any LGBTIQ friendly establishments nearby?
I'm glad I checked what the LGBTIQ community was like before I went. I found so much useful information.
What about if you're a woman travelling alone? A woman travelling alone on her own may encounter more difficulties than a man by himself. Relations between men and women and the position of gender within society differ significantly around the world. Not all countries value the concept of equality, and these views may challenge your own perceptions of gender. Be prepared for varying opinions on gender, sexual identity issues. To avoid hassles, be flexible. try and fit in and understand the role of that sex in the culture in which you are travelling. Flexibility means observing how the host country's women dress and behave and following their example. What may be appropriate or friendly behaviour and dress standards in Australia may bring you unwanted or even dangerous attention in another culture. Remember, you are representing Southern Cross University and Australia while you're overseas, and it is important that you are an excellent ambassador. Your success and struggles directly affect Southern Cross's ability to send future students on exchange programs and create overseas study opportunities. Now, this may seem like an ambiguous concept, so here are a few tips on how to be an excellent global ambassador. Respecting financial obligations at your host university and country. Fulfill academic responsibilities. Understanding the social norms of your host culture, including the drinking, gambling, and LGBTIQ cultures. Volunteering to represent Southern Cross and Australia on your host campus, and offering advice to students wishing to study overseas.
As an ambassador for SCU, I was involved in games, field trips, and even a few dinners. It was one of the best parts of my international experience.
Well, that's it from me. However, please remember that this is just a fraction of the information available and what you should know before you embark on your international study experience. Be sure to read up and ask lots of questions. So take care, be safe, and remember, have fun. We'll see you when you get back. Goodbye.